Marketing and advertising, sales promotion used to be my passion. I don't do all that anymore. But back in the day, there was a case study that there was a competition with, and I was working for Hindustan Lever. They were trying to bring something from the US and trying to sell it in the Indian market. The whitening toothpaste. This was 10, 12, 13 years back. They were trying to launch whitening toothpaste using Colgate brand, right? Which is known for fresh breath, energy, and youth. And whitening toothpaste was at that time the US predominant market share. And so they were trying to force that culture of, if you have white teeth only, then it's good into India. It failed a couple of years. And they came to IIM, it made it work through Pepsodent, saying the brand association was wrong and so on and so forth.
They were trying to do it with close-up.
Yeah, it didn't work. We did the project in Lucknow. We won the second prize for that competition. Told them to do it with Pepsodent and it worked. But my question as you guys are talking right now is that the right thing? Why is, when you vanish these borders, why are you forcing the predominant culture or the choice over a lot of these smaller markets and losing these innate cultural preferences, of consumer preferences? Now everybody is going to have Maggi, everybody is going to use the same Walmart, everybody is going to use Revlon. Just these big brands everywhere you see, and you lose out for, Gopal Palpudi, which is a local food powder back when I was growing up. Now maybe once in a while I should try it, right? Why is that? Why is that the right thing? I'm just questioning as leaders, tomorrow I may do a strategy engagement somewhere, but should I drive the whole thing the other way around, or is wherever it's going, is it the right way, these vanishing borders, is it the right thing to do?
I'll give you my perspective. I think the potential upside that tempts people into doing this is very clear. So two companies merge, they have a certain set of geographies each, and they have a set of brands each, and the lowest hanging fruit is take the brands that aren't present in the markets that you suddenly got and just do that. There's a right way and a wrong way to do it. So as long as you are doing it the right way and not forcing anything into a market, you'll succeed. But there's tremendous upside in doing that. I've seen that upside work many times, but again, there's a tremendous risk that you try to force something and it's not going to work.
And it's a two-way street, right? When we say vanishing borders, it means ideas and innovations can travel from the east to the west as well, north to the south. So we are, I think, talking about how to take the advantage of these vanishing borders. And maybe up till now it has been a huge preponderance of Western-style brands and products going into the east, but there's equally going to be a reverse flow. I hope so, at least.
A very quick response. It's really important for us to remember that the way consumers are human beings, so too are managers. And all the biases that consumers have, managers have as well. So while we as human beings in our consumer role are looking for some shortcut which is going to help us make a decision about which toothpaste to buy, which nail polish to buy, as managers as well, we are looking for shortcuts as leaders too. And this imposing what I know to somebody who I do not know is a lazy but human error.
Yeah. I'll say one other thing, right? So what we are seeing is scale matters at the end of the day. There's a reason why Walmart succeeds and the shop around the corner fails. Scale matters, right? Gopal Palpudi at the end of the day will not be able to compete with Colgate. It's the fact of life.
But there's a market for both, right?
The market,
Absolutely.
There's definitely there. So if Gopal Palpudi becomes very innovative, maybe it becomes Colgate.
To support Bala's point, there's a product called Isabgol, you must have heard of. It has been in India for centuries, right? And grown in the western parts in Gujarat and India. And we may have even consumed it, knowing it through Ayurveda, the benefits of Isabgol, which today are even talking about cholesterol reduction much beyond its original scope. But the point is, who took it global? Why has Gujarat and India become the largest exporter of just the raw material called Isabgol and not the brand called Metamucil or 10 other brands, because in the pharmacy stores here in North America, where every square inch of space is so valuable, I was just counting in a local store in Toronto, 16 feet had been given to isabgol-based products. 5 or 6 brands, Melobucil being the older one, the pioneering brand. So to answer your question, what is missing then in us not being able to spot that trend, that pattern early enough, firstly, and then taking the risk of going out to create that scale that you just mentioned. Others are doing it, and I'm sure corporations all over the world, whether they're Korean or Chinese or Taiwanese, Singaporean, they're going to do it. They're going to recognize the need to identify patterns quickly and then go ahead and take a risk and take a scale behind it, right?
I'd like to add a point to that. What is it that holds us back from doing it? And I think the people in this room are probably the people in the Indian population with the highest amount of self-confidence. But there is a significant lack of self-confidence in the rest of the country, and that does hold us back. There is this feeling that to your point, how can something go from the east to the west? And that is definitely holding us back.
Which is the common point with leadership. We cannot talk leadership till we have independent self-esteem inside an individual leader.
Yeah.
We live most of our lives as dependent self-esteem, waiting for a pat on our backs from our wives, priests, teachers, and any other better house that we have. We keep waiting for that pat in the back. But that's just dependent self-esteem. And in positive psychology, which I went to school for in addition to natural nutrition, unless you have independent self-esteem, you're not going to be able to cross borders.
Just kind of taking this to a slightly more theoretical level, we shouldn't beat ourselves up about this, and I think we might be in danger of doing it. There is a cultural context here, as you mentioned, and countries have been shown to differ very strongly on this continuum of interdependence and independence. The US and Hong Kong are probably at one end of the continuum of being supremely independent, and Japan and India are at the other end, being very interdependent cultures. Now, clearly, Japan has many more global brands than does India, but we're starting. So I think part of it was we just did not have role models out there. Now we have the Tata company as the role models, we have TCS as our role models. It'll start.
Let me ask you, so time check, right? Who's keeping time? How much more time do we have?
They're just being diplomatic. They don't want to tell us they need to get off the stage.
How much time? How much time do we have?
4 minutes.
4 minutes, wow.
4 minutes.
That's 2 times more than 92 minutes.
Do we have time for one more question and maybe a couple more slides?
Sure, we can
Yeah.
take 5 or 10 minutes. I think the audience is enjoying it.
The question of the element of time. The internet era has brought about instant gratification. But to be able to understand context, it takes time. You've got to allow it to germinate, take root, germinate, sprout, and then flower, and then mass produce, and then harvest, in an era of instant gratification. Thoughts?
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. Who has the time to understand is what you're saying, right? And it is a constant battle in most corporations, at least a few that I have been exposed to. I didn't work in too many organizations, but I worked for American, Indian, and European organizations. And I can easily spot the cultural view on, pull from the holster and shoot first and then ask questions kind of cultures. And then I've seen alternate cultures which are willing to listen, willing to invest the time it will take to truly understand. See, the consumer, as we used to say many years ago, is not a fool. We used to say, she's the housewife, she's your mother, she's your sister, when we're selling noodles type of food products, right? So the first lessons we learned was, do not underestimate what the consumer already knows or can sniff out with their nose. As leaders, that's what I teach younger, next generation leaders. Don't fool yourself. Employees, just listen to them at the coffee vending machine or in the water cooler. They already know how to sniff out a genuine, true leader who walks the talk, versus the guy who's just sitting on a podium and making speeches, right? So I think there are boardrooms all over the world which are becoming mature enough. And emotional intelligence didn't come overnight. And the Davos agenda devoted to emotional intelligence as recently as 2012. So it's just coming into the radar of global leaders. And they brought in Daniel Goleman and several other speakers just in February 2012. You look at the agenda, it is littered with Mahatma Gandhi quotes and Mother Teresa quotes and Daniel Goleman speaking on emotional intelligence. So it's coming into both, my hope, both into corporate boardrooms as well as in political decision-making circles. Right? We are to get out of this vicious cycle of we can sort everything out through bullets. I think we can sort everything out through great global marketing and great global brands if we bring these brands into full play and truly serve the interest of the global consumer. Yeah? And if you are looking at time, I just want to conclude these 5 slides I brought for you by saying, look at this slide is just begging something, right? And we mentioned about context. You have a comment. Yes, please. Time out. I'm listening.
Hi, Eugene John, 2007 batch.